Yeah, it's so hard. Being young in school, I mean, being any age is hard, but especially being young in school, because you're just forming that aspect of your identity of who am I? And we judge ourselves so much by the feedback we get from people around us. And it's so important that they like us. It's so important that they include us. It's so important that we're one of them. It starts to feel almost like a survival situation. I mean, being in a workplace where you don't feel very accepted is difficult, but it's not horrendous the way that it is when you're young in school, because it literally is the identity of the being. But here's the peer pressure answer in terms of from the mind of the person who's being pressured, especially with regard to drugs, as you've said. The game that people play on each other to get other people to do drugs with them, to get other people to drink alcohol with them, to get other people to smoke with them, is we keep pushing and pushing. Oh, you've got to do it. Just one. Just try it. It's so great. You're going to love it. And we keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. Now, here's the psychology that the minute you understand it, makes it lose its control over you. Imagine that you actually are doing something that you enjoy. So let's say you're eating a piece of chocolate cake, and you're really, really enjoying the piece of chocolate cake, and you're eating it guilt-free. You're not on a diet. You're not diabetic. No guilt at all. Just pure pleasure. Now, if you're sitting at the table with someone you like or love, you may say to them, "Oh God, you really should try this chocolate cake. It is fantastic." But if that person says, "Oh no, I'm on a diet," or "Oh no, I've given up sweets," you're not going to say, "Oh, come on." You're going to say, "Okay." And you're going to go back to eating your chocolate cake, which you're really enjoying. That other person, eating or not eating chocolate cake also, is going to have no impact whatsoever on your enjoyment of your own cake, if you are really enjoying it, and if you're enjoying it guilt-free. The problem arises when I also was on a diet. I also had made a commitment, I'm not eating sugar, but I couldn't help myself. It looked so good at the table next to me. I watched those people eat it. It looked so good that I couldn't control myself, and so I ordered a piece. Now I feel horribly guilty. Now this person sitting in front of me exercising restraint makes me feel not only guilty, but it makes me feel really bad about myself because, my God, I don't have any willpower. Look, here he is or she is, not eating, I'm eating. I'm the pig, I'm the one with no willpower. But if I can convince them to also eat, well, then we're all square. Then it's all good because then everybody's eating chocolate cake. And so now it becomes very important to me that you must eat chocolate cake. Because every minute that you don't is a minute that I'm feeling worse about myself. And when I'm feeling worse about myself, you can be pretty sure I'm not enjoying the chocolate cake. And this is the exact same thing with alcohol and drugs. What teenagers tell those who are not using is, "Oh my God, it's so great. Just drink this, you're going to love it, you're going to feel so great. You're going to have such a better time at this party." And of course the question is, well, you're drinking. If you were having such a better time than I am, why are you wasting your better time trying to get me to drink? Why is my not drinking impacting your better time? But of course, really what's going on is they're not enjoying it nearly as much as they say. They've got headaches, they feel dizzy, they feel nauseous. This is what too much alcohol does to you. And they feel on some level, now they may not be consciously aware of it. As teenagers, we're not all very aware of our own psychological processes. But on an unconscious level, there's also a guilt. They're doing something that they know isn't really right. Those who are pressuring others. Yeah, there are some who just go and drink and get drunk and have their party, and that's fine. You want to join them, fine. You don't join them, fine. But those who are pushing, those who are exerting pressure on others, you can be 100% sure that the reason they are pressuring others is because they are feeling badly inside. And if they're sitting at a table where they're drinking alcohol and you're drinking a Coke, it's a mirror in their face of the choice that they're making. They also could have a Coke, but they're not. They're drinking beer instead. And if they're going to keep pushing you to drink beer instead of Coke, to the point where it starts to feel like your Coke is preventing them from enjoying their beer, you can be sure that it really is, because they're not actually enjoying it so much. And so when you're the one being pressured, it's important to realize, first of all, that this is what's going on psychologically. And it's tricky because, of course, you do want to have friends. You do want people to like you. And so you have to be sometimes creative with how you do it. I remember my first year at college, fraternity parties were this really big thing, and everybody would go out to frat parties every weekend. And I had friends. I loved to socialize, but I was never a crowd person. I was definitely never a alcohol and like that type of person. But everybody would say, "Oh, come, it's the frat party, we have to go." And of course, I also cared about being liked and being accepted, and you didn't want people to every weekend say, "Again, you're not coming." And so I developed, for me, what worked, which was I said, I cannot stand the smell of beer on me. And at these parties, inevitably, somebody spills beer on me, and it makes me feel really sick. And what people would say is, "Oh, no, it's not going to be like that. This is going to be a much better party. Nobody's going to spill beer on you, I promise." And I would say, "Okay, I will come until someone spills beer on me." And they would say, "Okay." And so I'd go. And inevitably, within 5 or 7 minutes, somebody had spilled beer on me. And if it didn't look like it was happening quickly enough, I would manage to bump up against somebody who had just filled, a big cup of beer right to the top and ensure that some of it fell on me. But I share that because you do have to be creative. Unless you have something within you that really doesn't care at all what anybody thinks ever. But most teenagers aren't like that. Or unless there is a group that is not drinking, not using, with whom you can become friends and be with. But otherwise, there's creative ways to feel like you can still stay cool and not do what you don't want to do. As a mother, well, first of all, I think the most important gift that parents can give their children, particularly teenagers, is not to judge them, because otherwise they'll stop coming to you. And otherwise all the channels of communication close. So the minute that as parents we start saying, you can't do that, you better not do that, you're bad if you do that, you're impure if you do that, that's the minute that those channels of conversation close. That may work while somebody's living under your roof and, you have to drive them everywhere they go. But the minute that there's a little bit of freedom, you have to shift your relationship into being one of being a friend whom they can trust, whom they can come to. So that's the first piece. The second piece I think that's really important is to keep reminding them that this too shall pass. Because what happens when we're young is every day is a new soap opera. Every day it's something else. And every day it feels like this is the world. This is the world. My best friend had lunch with a different person today. It was the end of the world. And for parents, it's delicate because, of course, you don't want to undermine them. You don't want them to feel like you're not taking them seriously. But with taking them seriously, help them understand this too shall pass. And by the way, that's true whether you're a teenager or an adult. Whatever the situation is, it will pass. It's the nature of situations. They tend to pass more quickly when you're a teenager, which is good for them. The other aspect is to offer practical solutions. So in most cases, in most schools, in most environments, not everybody is using. Not everybody is drinking. There are groups of kids who aren't. They may not seem as cool as the ones who are using. And so if my first and most important priority is I need to be with the coolest kids, I'm going to find myself under a lot more pressure. So if as a mom, she can really help him understand the importance of friendship in general, and that it doesn't have to be with that group. Because look, being with that group makes you feel miserable. Being with that group is pushing you into doing things you don't want to do. And can help him cultivate friendships with people in other groups, people who are not using. Because it's, as I said, it's very, very rare that it's 100%. That you can't find a friend who's sober. That you can't find another kid who's also not using drugs. Very rare. So to really help him reach out, creative problem solving, helping getting into other friend groups, helping get into extracurricular activities that require you to be healthy. Whether it's certain sports, whatever it may be. But there are activities that don't go very well with being a drug addict. And so you can be pretty sure that the people who are also signing up for those activities, who are also taking those classes, are not using drugs. So I would say those are the three main areas.